My stepfather set me up, stole my money and possessions, but I showed him who's in charge here. Hey, I'm Ben. I'm 19. Life was chill, just vibing, until my mom had this brilliant idea of getting remarried. Classic. I mean, I didn't exactly have a say in the matter. New stepdad? Yay! What a fucking joy. And it's not like I was jumping up and down for it. But hey, you don't really have a choice, do you? You just suck it up and deal with it. So, here comes Dan, my brand new, shiny stepdad. At first, he was like this low-key ghost. Quiet, always working, barely looked up from his laptop. Fine by me. I don't need some stranger trying to act like he's my second father, right? Just stay in your lane, Dan. But then, shit started getting weird. It wasn't big stuff, just small signs that made my skin crawl. For example, the basement door. Always wide open, like all the damn time. I'd go down there, grab some tools, and every time it felt like someone was watching me. I swear, I'd hear movement, like footsteps, but there was never anyone around. I thought I was just being paranoid, like those stupid horror movie vibes that make you think the house is haunted or some shit. But no, there was something off. Then one night, I come home from my dead-end job. I've got a headache, I'm starving, and I'm just ready to crash. But when I walk in, it's like the whole damn house is holding its breath. No TV, no noise. Mom's not on the couch. Dan's nowhere in sight. And then, I see him. Dan, standing by the window like a freaking statue. No movement. Just staring out into the dark like he's waiting for a sign or some shit. I was like, yo, what the fuck, Dan? I called out, trying to break the tension that was basically suffocating me. He slowly turns to me, like he didn't even know I was standing there. His face was all weird, like he hadn't blinked in a century. Just thinking, he mumbled, like I was the crazy one for interrupting his freaky-ass ritual. And that's when I noticed it. His clothes. They weren't his usual, I'm a boring office drone shit. Nah, this was I'm a rich guy who doesn't give a fuck gear. He was wearing this fancy-ass suit, and his smile? Tight as hell. Like he was forcing it, Creepy as fuck. I was like, yo, you good, man? You on something? Because something wasn't right. I was trying to keep it chill, but I wasn't that dumb. He just gave me this huge grin, like way too big, like Joker shit. Yeah, I'm fine, just making some changes around here, he said, with this weird tone, like he was letting me in on a secret I didn't even ask for. I swear, something in my gut told me I should have just punched him in the face right there and ran. But instead I was like, yeah, whatever, dude, and just bounced. Went to bed, trying to forget it all, but my mind, it wouldn't shut up. That night I couldn't sleep, not because I was tired, because I kept hearing shit. Footsteps, like real slow, dragging footsteps. But no one was there, like the house was alive. Every creak, every little noise, felt like someone was breathing down my neck. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. I was wide awake, my heart racing, like a damn horror movie. And the next morning, Dan? Gone. Poof. Like he vanished into thin air. But Mom? She's just making pancakes like it's a normal-ass day. No questions. Nothing. I didn't trust him. I didn't trust that house. Something was definitely off about Dan, and I knew right then. Things were about to get real ugly. Little did I know that would be the start of a nightmare that would turn my life into a freak show I wasn't ready for. The next few days? Weird, but nothing I couldn't handle. I kept my distance from Dan, mainly because he was giving me this creepy vibe, but Mom seemed happy, like annoyingly happy. I figured, let her have her second chance at love, or whatever. Just don't drag me into it, okay? I had my own shit to deal with. Still, every time Dan would come around, I couldn't shake that feeling. Like he's the one that's off, not me. Then, the weird shit started happening. And when I say weird, I mean shit going missing. First, it was little stuff. My favorite watch, some headphones, a few bills I'd saved up. At first, I thought I was just losing it. Maybe I was getting old and forgetful. But then, one night, I came home to find my entire savings gone. I'm not talking about loose change here. Nah, I'd spent the whole summer grinding away at this bullshit job, saving up like $2,000. Gone. Poof. Just vanished. And no, I didn't just forget where I put it. I knew exactly where it was. Under my mattress, because I'm not stupid enough to leave cash in a bank account that's basically a free invitation for someone to rob me. Naturally, my first thought was, okay, maybe Mom took it. But she was just as confused as I was. She didn't even know where the money was, and let's be honest, I'm not dumb enough to blame her. The only one left was Dan. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ben, why not just go to the cops? Well, first of all, I didn't want to get stuck with the drama. Second, Dan knew something was up, and I wasn't about to get tangled in some weird mind game where I was the idiot. So, I did what anyone would do when they suspect someone's stealing from them. I confronted him. And of course, the dude played it cooler than a cucumber. He just turned to me with that weird-ass smile, the one that made my skin crawl, and was like, Ben, you must have misplaced it, man. Are you sure you didn't blow it on something stupid? Really, Dan? You really think I'm that much of an idiot? Of course, I wasn't buying that for a second. I was ready to lose it, but I kept my cool. I'm gonna report it, I said. Not sure if that would scare him, or if I was just trying to scare myself into believing that I had a plan. But Dan? He just laughed. A deep, satisfied laugh. And that smug look. Oh man, it was like he knew something I didn't. So that's when I realized. This wasn't just some random mistake. This guy wasn't playing games anymore. He was messing with me. And honestly, I wasn't gonna sit around and let this asshole walk all over me. I wasn't gonna be the dude who gets played, not when I had all the cards. It was time to make a move. No more Mr. Nice Guy. A few days later, I decided it was time to check the basement. If Dan was hiding something, and let's be honest, I knew he was, that was probably where he'd stash it. I'd been hearing weird-ass noises down there for the past few nights. It wasn't just creaking, like the house settling or whatever. No, this sounded like someone was moving around in the dark. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. But after my cash mysteriously disappeared, and Dan's smug smile didn't leave his face, I knew it was time to get to the bottom of this shit. So, one night, when everyone was finally asleep, because thankfully Mom's too wrapped up in her fairy tale romance to notice anything, I grabbed a flashlight and made my move. The basement was like a damn horror movie set. It was dark, musty, and the air down there, thick, like you could cut it with a knife. Honestly, it felt like the basement was holding its breath, just waiting for me to step into whatever freaky mess Dan had been cooking up. The noise was louder tonight, though. Way louder. It was like furniture was being moved around, maybe dragged. What the hell kind of sick game was Dan playing? This was beyond creepy. I crept down the stairs as quietly as I could, but I swear every step I took felt like it was echoing. Then, when I reached the bottom, I froze. There, sitting in the corner, was a huge wooden box, and on top of it, all my shit. My watch, my headphones, and, yep, you guessed it, my savings. My $2,000. It was all sitting there like he was daring me to take it, like he was taunting me. I was about to grab my stuff and burn this whole thing to the ground, but just as I stepped forward, I heard a voice behind me. Looking for something? I spun around, heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. There he was, Dan, standing in the doorway like he was waiting for me this whole time. And that smile. Jesus. He had this smug grin on his face, like I was the one who'd just been caught red-handed. You know, Ben, you really should have stayed out of here, he said, voice low and cold, like he was about to give me a lecture on personal space. I couldn't think straight. What the hell is this? I snapped, pointing at the box. What did you do with my money, you creep? Dan didn't even blink. He just stood there, arms crossed, watching me like I was some kind of joke. I took it, Ben, and I'm gonna keep taking whatever I want. You can't stop me. I was frozen. My blood went cold. This wasn't about some petty theft anymore. No, Dan wasn't just stealing my shit. He was playing some sick, twisted game, and I was the pawn. Every move he made felt calculated, like he was enjoying watching me squirm. Suddenly, it hit me. I wasn't just being robbed. I was being messed with. And that, my friend, was a whole different level of fucked up. The next day, I was a complete mess. I mean, I had all the evidence in the world, the box, my stuff, Dan's creepy-ass smile, everything. But like, what the hell was I supposed to do with it? Go to the cops? Yeah, right. Who the hell was gonna believe me? My mom was so in love with Dan, there was no way she'd even entertain the idea that he was a freaking criminal mastermind hiding in our basement. And to be honest, I wasn't sure what Dan could do to me if I went full hero on him. The dude was twisted, and I was starting to feel like I was playing some sick game I didn't even sign up for. I spent hours pacing around my room, trying to figure out my next move. Do I go to the cops? Do I take matters into my own hands? I mean, I wasn't exactly the confrontational type, but this guy? This guy was playing me, and I wasn't about to let him win. So yeah, my brain was a shit show. But then, out of nowhere, Dan walks into my room. No knock, no, "Hey, can I come in?" Just walks in like he owns the damn place. "Let's have a chat, Ben," he says, sitting on the edge of my bed like this is a goddamn therapy session. The guy's got some nerve. Like, if there's one thing you don't do, it's sit on someone else's bed like it's a couch in your living room. But whatever. I wasn't gonna give him the satisfaction of seeing me freak out. I try to stay calm. And by calm, I mean I'm about 1 second away from just punching this guy in the face. "What do you want from me?" I ask, trying to sound like I've got it together. He smiles that creepy, "I know something you don't" smile again. Seriously, this guy has a whole repertoire of terrifying grins. "I want you to understand something. This is my house now. I'm in charge. And if you keep pushing me, I'll make your life hell. You don't want that, do you?" The moment he says that, I feel my stomach drop. This wasn't just about stealing my stuff. This was about him taking control. He wasn't trying to just mess with me. He was trying to break me. The worst part? I knew he could do it. He had me on edge. I felt like I was walking on glass, and one wrong move and I'd be shattered. I tried to act tough. I wasn't gonna let him see me sweat. "You're not in charge of anything, Dan," I shot back, trying to sound more confident than I actually felt. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, but I wasn't gonna let him see that. Dan just laughed, that slow, sickening chuckle that made me want to punch him in the face. "You think you can stop me, Ben?" He looked around my room like he was picking out furniture. "You're just a kid, remember?" And there it was. The truth. I was just a kid to him. A pawn in his twisted little game. But I wasn't going down without a fight. I couldn't take it anymore. Like, legit, I was done. Dan was running around like he was the king of the castle, and I was supposed to be his little puppet? Nah, that wasn't happening. I'm not just gonna sit back and let this dude mess with me. The guy was bigger, stronger, and had the whole damn house on his side. Mom was practically worshipping him, and I was just the random guy he'd picked out to bully. But I'll be damned if I went down like that. So, I did what any self-respecting person would do when they're stuck in a shitty situation. I started plotting my revenge. Oh, you bet I was going to fight back, but I had to get smart about it. I wasn't exactly the Hulk here, and Dan clearly had more muscle than me, so I needed a plan. I started gathering intel like some kind of spy movie character. Seriously. I kept track of his schedule, all his little habits. When did he leave the house? When was he on the phone, distracted by some bullshit business deal? I started marking the times he'd be out of the house, so I could make my move. It wasn't just about getting my stuff back anymore. It was about taking him down strategically. And the more I observed, the more I realized that I had one massive advantage. He completely underestimated me. This guy thought I was just some dumb kid who didn't know shit. He thought I was easy prey. But what he didn't know? I was smarter than he gave me credit for, and I was about to make him regret underestimating me. But I wasn't just about to swoop in and yell at him. No, I needed the goods. I needed to expose his shady ass for all the weird shit he was hiding. There had to be something in his life that would bring him down. No one's perfect, right? There was something, and I was going to find it. So, yeah, I went full ninja mode. I started sneaking around the house, making sure to be quiet as hell. No footsteps, no creaking floors. I wasn't about to make it obvious. I'd sneak into rooms when he was out, grab photos, take notes, jot down any details that felt off. I was like a freaking detective, only my investigation was way more personal and way more satisfying. At first it felt dumb, like I was just a kid running around looking for clues in a house that wasn't even mine. But then I found something, a file, stashed away in his office, hidden behind a bunch of random paperwork. You know that feeling when you find something you weren't supposed to see? Yeah, I got that feeling. Inside the file, some weird shady business deals, money transfers that didn't make sense. This was the stuff I needed, the kind of stuff that could bring him down, the kind of stuff that would prove he wasn't the perfect guy Mom thought he was. This was it. I wasn't just gonna take back my stuff. I was going to expose Dan. One day, I decided it was time to confront Dan for good. I was tired of playing the game. I had all the ammo I needed. All those photos, all those notes, everything I'd gathered over the last few days was now in my hands. I had him cornered. There was no turning back now. Dan was in the living room, just like usual, sipping whiskey out of a glass like he was some sort of badass from a bad crime movie. Same routine. But today was different. Today, I wasn't the quiet, scared kid he thought I was. I wasn't gonna sit back and let him play me anymore. I walked in, holding up the evidence like it was a damn trophy. I felt this sick satisfaction in my chest. You think you can just mess with me and get away with it? You're wrong, I said, my voice steady even though my heart was racing like a race car engine. Dan's face? It twisted into this ugly sneer, like he couldn't even hide how much he hated me. You really think anyone cares, Ben? He spat, barely looking up from his glass. You're just a kid. I've been doing this shit long before you even existed. I could feel the anger bubbling up, but I kept it cool. His words were trying to get under my skin, but this time, I wasn't having it. I'm not a kid, Dan, and I'm done being your punching bag, I shot back, making sure my words hit like a slap in the face. Dan didn't like that. He stood up so fast, his chair scraping against the floor like he was ready to snap. His eyes went cold, like some kind of ice-cold killer. You should have stayed out of this, Ben. Now you're gonna regret it. But here's the thing. I wasn't scared anymore. For the first time in this whole messed-up ordeal, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't backing down. He was the one who was gonna regret it. I stepped closer, holding the photos and notes like I had the damn keys to the kingdom. I wasn't just some kid anymore. I was the guy who was about to ruin his life. And it felt damn good. You think I'm scared of you, Dan? I asked, looking him dead in the eyes. I'm not afraid of you. You're just a thief, a liar, and now you're gonna pay for it. Dan's grin faltered, just a little, and that was all I needed to see. I wasn't gonna be the scared little boy hiding in his room anymore. I was the one in control now. I took one last step forward, keeping my eyes locked on his, and with the calmest voice I could muster, I said, You're done. Your game ends here. And for the first time, I saw it. Fear. Just a flicker. That little shift in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. He wasn't untouchable anymore. Now it was time for him to feel what it was like to be the one backed into a corner. It came down to this. The house was silent. I had taken everything. All the evidence, all the photos, everything that proved Dan had been stealing from me and my mom. It was all laid out in front of him. Dan looked around, his smirk slowly fading. You really think you can win? You're nothing but a kid with a few pictures. I stepped closer. You're wrong. I have everything. I've been watching you, and I'm done. Dan lunged at me, his face twisted in rage. But this time, I was ready. I'd learned everything I needed to know about his moves, his weaknesses. I dodged, and in the heat of the moment, I used his own anger against him. Get out of my house, I said, my voice shaking but firm. Dan was gone. The house felt different, lighter, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I couldn't believe it was finally over. But the worst part? My mom still didn't know the full story. She didn't know what he had done to me, and I wasn't sure if I was ever going to tell her. But one thing was for sure. I was never going to let anyone push me around again. Dan thought he could break me, but I proved him wrong. This was my house now, and I was the one in charge.